Greetings and welcome to another Deckard Games YouTube thing. On today's thing, I'm going to be talking about my very personal top 10 Super Nintendo games. So, let's take a look. Let me start by explaining that I'll be restricting this list to PAL Europe games only. So, because of that, you won't be seeing things like Final Fantasy, or even Super Mario RPG, or even a masterpiece like Chrono Trigger. I will be restricting this list to games that I had a chance to play while growing up. So, let's take a look.
Number 10.
And at number 10, starting off things, we have Donkey Kong Country. Great platformer on the Super Nintendo with digitized graphics, great sound, great presentation, and you play as Donkey Kong. You can't go wrong with him. It's a legendary character in video games. So number 10, great platformer, Donkey Kong Country.
Number 9.
And at number 9, we have a Capcom game, UN Squadron. This is an horizontal shooter, but with different things. Not only you can choose your plane or your ship you want to use, but you can also choose the kind of weapons that you want, the kind of path that you want to take throughout the game, and super fast game, but still fair. The sound is just awesome, great music that goes with the game 100% well. If you haven't played UN Squadron, please do so. You will love this game, I guarantee it.
Number 8.
And at number 7, we have, of course, Super Mario World. Another platform. Holy Jesus! So, at number 8, we have Super Mario World. Again, great platformer. You can't go wrong with the Super Mario game. It's a classic since the original Super Nintendo, the NES, the original Nintendo. It's a great platformer, beautiful colors, beautiful game. Super Mario World.
Number 7.
At number 7, we have another Capcom game, that being Street Fighter 2 Turbo. What is there to say about Street Fighter 2? It's probably the game that had the most versions throughout the years. It's a classic beat 'em up. In those days, if you wanted to make a beat 'em up game, you had to look at Street Fighter 2. Everything is perfect, the sound is great, lots of characters to play with, lots of fighters to fight with, and it's just great, so fluid, so awesome. It's an awesome game to play not only by yourself against the computer, but with friends also. Street Fighter 2 Turbo on the Super Nintendo.
Number 6.
At number 6, another classic from Nintendo, that being Super Mario Kart. What is there to say about Super Mario Kart? They're still making the game today. You have Super Mario Kart for the Switch. It's an awesome game. It's party all the time, especially if you want to play with friends on the same room and have that fun experience with the game. You can't go wrong with Super Mario Kart. It's my number 6 favorite game on the Super Nintendo.
Number 5.
We are halfway through, and at number 5 we have Secret of Mana. This is a very special game. It's a role-playing game, it's an RPG, but at the time it blew my mind. It's a role-playing game where you can play in co-op mode, which in those days was a big improvement. I've never seen an RPG for more than one player. The story is awesome, the sound is great, it's from a top-down view, and again, co-op playing on an RPG. This was big news back in the day. Secret of Mana, awesome game.
Number 4.
At number 4, right at the door of the podium, and this may be where the controversy begins with. I'm cool with that, I'm okay with the comments. Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. No, it doesn't make the podium. It's an awesome role-playing game. There's nothing much to say about Link to the Past. For lots and lots of people, it's the best game of all time. For me, it's one of the best in the Super Nintendo library. It stays at number 4. I'm not going to talk too much about the game. Everybody knows Link to the Past. It's a classic, must-have, must-play game on the Super Nintendo.
Number 3.
At number 3, taking the bronze medal, we have SimCity. What? SimCity on the Super Nintendo. And if you're asking why is SimCity my number 3 game, you will know in the future what I think about SimCity. I was so addicted to this game in the PC. When I knew SimCity was on the Super Nintendo and not on the Mega Drive or Genesis, I wanted to buy a Super Nintendo. This was one of the games that made me want a Super Nintendo. It's a game without end. You just build your city, micromanagement. It's the kind of game that is rare nowadays. Everything is first-person shooters and adventure games and whatever. If you never played SimCity, I don't know where you've been living all these years. Play SimCity. If not on the PC, play it on the Super Nintendo. Of course, the PC version is a lot better, but still, SimCity blew my mind back in those days. It's my number 3 game on the Super Nintendo.
Number 2.
And at number 2, taking the silver medal, I'm a beat-em-up guy. If you haven't seen my first video on YouTube about Streets of Rage, you would know that I'm a beat-em-up guy. So, number 2, of course, Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, Turtles in Time. A game by Konami, a beat-em-up by Konami. They decided to call Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles in Europe, not Ninja Turtles. I really don't know why. I read about it and they thought that ninja would be a violent word for us Europeans. We would dress like ninjas and go out to the streets on a killing spree or something. You can't go wrong with a beat 'em up from Konami. Great gameplay. It's a port from the arcade. Of course, the arcade version is the better one, but still awesome levels, great sound. The music, though, for me personally, is better on the Mega Drive version, the Hyperstone Heist version. But you can't go wrong with the Turtles in Time. You can't go wrong with a beat 'em up made by Konami. They are the fathers of games like this. Please play Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's the freaking Turtles on a beat 'em up. There's nothing else to say. Play Turtles in Time.
Number 1.
And my number 1 game on the Super Nintendo, taking the gold medal, of course. You can't go wrong. Super Metroid. The first time that I saw Super Metroid, it was in some store. I heard it playing on the background. I heard this dark-toned and very serious music that I was not used to hear at video games for children. And I went to see what was going on in that store. And when I looked at the screen and I saw Super Metroid in this kind of maze where you have to pick power-ups to get out of there, you're killing aliens along the way or Metroids, it just blew my mind away. For me, this was such an adult game back in those days. It had everything. Gameplay, sound, music, and it all came together to an absolutely extraordinary atmosphere in Super Metroid. If you never played Super Metroid, pick up the game, play it on an emulator, on your PC, on your phone, whatever you want, and play Super Metroid. It's an awesome game, and it takes my number 1 place in Super Nintendo games. So that's it. That's my top 10 favorite games on the Super Nintendo. This is a personal top 10, of course. Everybody tastes and opinions, they change a lot. And let me say that back then, I didn't own a Super Nintendo. I was a big Sega guy, especially from the Mega Drive or Genesis era. The Mega Drive was huge in Portugal, while Nintendo presence was not so great. But we will talk more about that in a future video, about Super Nintendo in Europe, and the idea that everybody has that Nintendo was great all over the world. That's not exactly true. In Europe, Sega ruled the market, but still, I had a couple of friends that had Super Nintendo, so I had the chance to play these games. This Super Nintendo right here is not mine, it's from my very good friend Pedro. This is his original model from 1992. It's a little bit yellow, but that just shows charisma, that's it. It's a great platform to collect with. It marked the 16-bit generations along with the Mega Drive or Genesis. If it wasn't for those two consoles, the Mega Drive / Genesis and the Super Nintendo, we wouldn't have got where we are today. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know in the comment section below if you agree with my list. If you disagree with it, let me know what your favorite top 10 is. Click that subscribe button to support the channel. Click that bell icon to receive notifications every time a new video comes up. Thank you very much for watching my channel. Leave me a thumbs up, and until then, take care. Oh seriously? I'll check for your ass back to China.